Throughout the years, horror as a genre has adapted itself to include many new scary factors. Originally, it was just a shadow of what could be happening, to a very gruesome display for all to see and experience. As such, many horror franchises have come and gone. The same franchises have also had delayed praise that brought them back into popularity at much later times, though there seems to be those franchises that are just so acclaimed they never seem to die. One of these infamous franchises is Halloween. This series has gone through the ringer in terms of movies that began in 1978 and continued until the year 2022. 13 movies in total, though of course not all the movies are canonical, nor are they adored. Rob Zombie's movies are seen as universally hated by most fans of the franchise, and for good reason. The movies themselves take the essence of what Halloween as a movie franchise stood for and shredded it into little pieces. If you made it its own story, I'm sure it would be marginally better than just slapping characters from Halloween into these story parts. As for this video, I will be taking the movies the director allegedly claimed to be the true and canon timeline. This will be the original 1978 Halloween movie, along with the most recent trilogy, which was Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends. I'm Synn, and welcome to another night of Horror and Chill, the lovely online web series where I talk about a horror-related topic and the vibes are chill. Tonight's topic? How Michael Myers scares us. Horror itself is a grandiose and very subjective genre. What may seem scary to others is something a person will gladly decorate their room in. As such, I forewarn you that this video is merely my idea of what makes Michael Myers stand out as one of the scariest horror slashers in the genre. Though to first understand how violently Michael Myers shook up the world when he first graced the silver screen, we first have to understand what horror looked like at the time. During this era, slasher horrors were still in a very early age. Merely sparked on by the release of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Black Christmas in 1974, though it was John Carpenter's Halloween that had truly reinforced and semi-fortified the idea of what a slasher film and its tropes should follow. Along with this, up to this point, horror films were scarce to show the actual violence on screen, many kills being off-screen or with very little blood. Though the era of slasher horror was the first dip into the waters that would become our horror we've become familiar with, where we now often see blood and viscera on full display in our feature films. When Halloween was first released, it was the first slasher to really give us a more in-depth, or at least in-depth for 1978, but more in-depth look at the blood and quote-unquote gore within the films. Though of course I'm sure Lord YouTube would rather burn me at the stake than allow me to show mild blood upon the screen, so I won't. Now that we've been slightly more informed on the state of horror slasher at the time, being that there really isn't one, we can go into how this slasher scares us more than nearly any other. As we all know, slashers are slashers with a motive. Freddy has one, Jason's mother does, almost every popular slasher has some form of motive. Yet, as in Scream, Billy so delightfully points out,
I don't really believe in motive, Sid. I mean, did Norman Bates have a motive?
No.
Did they ever really decide why Hannibal Lecter liked to eat people? Don't think so. You see, it's a lot scarier when there's no motive, Sid.
which I believe he's completely right when he says that. Slashers are far scarier when they have no motive, which is where Halloween comes in. Halloween's horror comes in not only because of the pure beauty of how the film was crafted, but because there is never a set-in-stone motive for Michael. Michael kills his sister, Judith Myers, when he's 6, and then it's left up in the air if he's even human. Small quips where it mentions him being something else, how they refer to him as it to dehumanize him, it all pushes us towards this idea that he's something less than human. Along with this, Michael never speaks. They put an intense emphasis on this with the 2018 version, mentioning constantly how he never speaks. Hell, one entire character, the psychiatrist, is entirely motivated and infatuated with trying to get Michael to speak. Of course, that gets him a very bloody death, but it's the fact he tried nonetheless. It's this idea of Michael somehow gaining a sense of humanity if he talks. But no, he's a mute stalker. Adding upon this is his title of the Shape or the Boogeyman, names that make him sound more like a distorted monster that will linger in your closet or under your bed than just a man standing outside watching you. Then, he has his infamous sound cue. Within the movie, every time we were put in the perspective of Michael, watching, stalking, waiting, we're only made aware of it by his breathing. his ragged, heavy breathing echoing through the mask. They did everything to build him up as a threat, and they never explained why he was doing it. This seemingly indestructible hulking being that is so lost from humanity, we never learn what makes him tick. So all of these things really add up to him being intimidating and scary to most people. After all, to most people, a stalker is terrifying, but even then, stalkers have motives, except Michael. Michael Myers is terrifying because he has absolutely no motive. There is no motive to explain through the entirety of the 4 quote-unquote canonical timeline of films as to why he does what he does. Through the movies, we see Michael being this indestructible tank of what could be a human and what may not be. As you go through the collection of movies, we see Michael get repeatedly injured, shot at, and slammed, hit, and even in a mass beatdown by the townsfolk, he never falters. However, no matter what, he constantly was able to quickly return to his mission. Bro wouldn't take a hint from anyone. This is the sole reason as to why Halloween can sustain its horror factor for so long. I'm no horror connoisseur, but I consider myself heavily desensitized to typical horror content. So when Michael was able to make me at least cringe in my seat through a single scene in Halloween 2018, it stuck out more to me. The fact that throughout the quote-unquote canonical timeline he is shown to have absolutely no true motive is more unnerving than most if not all slashers in the genre. See, when you have no motive in your characters, they lose a large part of their humanity. It gives them absolutely no reason as to why they're doing what they're doing, making the character seem mindless, like a husk or a shell of an actual person. That, and it also allows us as a viewer to project our own fears into the character, whether knowingly or unknowingly. This amplifies our fear as it preys upon our own imagination, which can create our own worst monsters. Pair this with the fear of the unknown, and Michael Myers nearly writes himself as a terrifying horror slasher. A stalker tank of a being who doesn't speak, has no motive, and will stop at nothing to achieve his goal. What is his goal? No idea. Why does he do it? No idea on that either. No motive takes away sympathy points as well, making it harder for even the kindest of souls to find a reason to feel like Myers is justified in what he does. If we were to push it that far, it would take leaps and bounds to find some crumb of a motive from the quote-unquote canonical timeline. This absence of soul completely dehumanizes him. Pair that with the small quips of him being otherworldly, and you're presented with a horrible monster that can terrorize people across generations. Oh, also, he stabs you a lot, and that's not fun, so I guess that's pretty scary too. Wowee! I'm sure as I go through watching old horror films for the first time, I'll make more little videos talking about things from them, but I wanted to start off with Halloween because of just how important it was to the rest of slasher history. Especially in a time where horror as a genre feels oversaturated, and nothing that comes out feels like it's scary. I'd love to see more things prey upon people's abilities to scare themselves with their own imagination. Anyways, that's all my time for big horror thoughts. I'll be returning back to my abyss now. Good night.